I wanted to make a video about Wave Apps reports. We're just going to go through these one by one and briefly look at them. Be sure to check my Wave Apps playlist for other Wave videos and tutorials. The Reports tab is over here on the left, and you can see that all the reports are listed here. The first one is the profit and loss, which is called an income statement in accounting textbooks. And it basically just shows income or revenues minus expenses. You can change the time period up here at the top. There are several options, and if none of these options work, you can always put in a custom date range. You can also compare to a prior period. For example, if you want to compare this year to last year, and if you want to take that back out, here's a little trash can icon to delete that. And then you can also change from accrual basis to cash basis. And down here on the actual report, there's a summary tab and a details tab. And you can click on any one of these account names. And if you click on it, you can drill down and get the details. And then up here at the top, it does give you the option to export this to a CSV file, so you can open it in a spreadsheet format, such as in Excel. And then it also gives you an option to export it to a PDF. So your formulas are going to be income minus cost of goods sold equals your gross profit. And then gross profit minus operating expenses equals your net profit, your bottom line. And it also gives you as a percentage of total income and the change. And then there's also the balance sheet. So the profit and loss and balance sheet are pretty popular reports that I see businesses using quite a bit. The balance sheet is simply a snapshot of assets or resources and what you own, liabilities or debts, and equity. So I'm just going to click on it, and I can change the date just like before, and I can change the report type as well. And then of course I can go between summary and details. I'm going to look at 2024 just because I know I have some open invoices and open vendor bills in 2024. So if I'm looking at cash basis, it does not show accounts receivable and accounts payable. But if I look at accrual basis, it is going to show accounts receivable, which would be any open invoices, and accounts payable, which would be any open vendor bills. So you can see that assets are up here, then the liabilities, and at the bottom would be equity, which represents the owner's equity in the business. And then you have the cash flow statement. Now the cash flow statement basically just shows cash inflow minus cash outflow and net cash change. So we're going to look at 2023, and we're going to look at details. And you can see that this is broken down into three main sections. You have the operating activities, which would be anything related to your day-to-day operating your business, receiving income, paying bills, paying expenses, paying payroll. And then you have investing activities, which would be related to any property, equipment, or anything like that. And then you have financing activities, which are related to loans and equity. So I'm not going to go into depth about the cash flow statement. That would be probably a pretty extensive video, but basically what you're looking for here is what's going on in each category, what is having a positive cash change, what is having a negative cash change, and overall just giving you an idea of where money is going and where money is coming from. And then under taxes, you've got a couple reports here. The sales tax report would only be used if you are collecting sales tax and remitting it to a government agency. And then I'm just going to click on the 1099K. This would only be relevant if you have a Wave Payments account. If they issue you a 1099-K, you would find it here. And then the payroll reports are only going to be relevant if you use Wave apps for payroll. Obviously, this is a sample company. There's no payroll in this company, but if there were, the information would be in these reports. In the customer section, there's a couple of good reports here. You have the income by customer report, and this is going to show you any income from each customer and how much of that was paid. So you can see that this customer has an open balance on an invoice and they haven't paid it yet. I'm going to also look at 2023, and that has a little more detail. And then you have the aged receivables report. This is going to show you how much each customer owes you, and it puts it into time periods. This is useful because once it gets to a certain point, you might get more aggressive in trying to collect. For example, you might get more aggressive at the 61 to 90 day point, and then get even more aggressive when it gets to over 90 days. So this can be a useful report. And then under vendors, there's a purchases by vendor report. And again, it shows all purchases and then paid purchases. So both of these vendors have open vendor bills that haven't been paid, as you can see here from this report. Let me look at 2023. Now realize that you do need to add a vendor to the expense for it to show up in this report. For example, under Amazon, I see $88.79 as all purchases, but if I go over here to transactions, I can see that there's quite a few Amazon transactions, and they probably add up to more than that amount. So I can click on any one of these, and you can see that there's no vendor here. So I have to add the vendor here for it to show up on that report. And that also goes for the income by customer. Customer names have to be added to the transaction for it to show up on that report. And then we also have the aged payables report, which is very similar to the aged receivables report, except this time we're looking at vendor bills. So I've got one bill that's not yet overdue, and then one bill that is overdue, but it's 30 days or less. So this is a good report to keep track of any vendor bills you might have and if they're overdue. And then down here you have some more detailed reporting. The account balances report is simply a list of all the accounts, any starting balances, debits, credits, and then net change or net movement, and then of course the ending balance. And then there's the trial balance, which is basically just a list of accounts and their ending balances as of whatever date you put on here. And you can of course switch between accrual and cash basis. And then down at the bottom, your total debits need to equal your total credits. And then the last report is the general ledger, which is simply a report with all of the transactions for a time period. So I'm going to look at 2023. I noticed that a lot of tax preparers like this report. They like to get a copy of this report at year end, and they usually ask for it in Excel. So usually what I'll do is export this to a CSV file, open it in Excel, and send it to them like that. And this is what it looks like. This is a really good report to review everything that happened for the year, although this report can get pretty large. And that's basically it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below, and thank you for watching.